Well, well, look who it is. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to this video. My name is Alex, and today I wanted to talk about becoming smart by yourself. And I want to talk about how I study, the idea of self-study, and intelligence, and what I think being smart is. So, I hope that you are able to relax and enjoy this video. I'm so sleepy. I have taken hours-long naps today. It's just, when you're burnt out, I'm burnt out, so I'm really tired. I hope that adds to the ASMR and doesn't detract from it. So, I'm probably going to be a little drowsy in this. Feel free to put this on the background, do what you need to do, and I hope that you're able to relax with me. So, in front of me, I have some notes. I've got my pencil so that I can read and point to things. But I'm currently learning by myself. I do self-study, so I read and take notes for a couple of hours every day. This is usually before work or after work, depending on the day. And this is a daily thing for me. I have this ASMR channel, and I am planning a second channel, which will in essence be essentially a main channel where I want to make essay videos. Longer videos, not ASMR, but relaxing and very calm. And they will be about ideas, specifically conceptual ideas, usually in fringe philosophies, or creatively applying philosophy to contemporary problems. And I've been working on research for a while, and that's all been completely out of college, so I do that on my own. I think, actually, funny enough, today I was doing more learning, and I watched a video by PhilosophyTube, who is very talented. She's really great. And the video is on Judith Butler and their new book. I think it's called Who's Afraid of Gender. And in this book, and subsequently in the video, there's a talk about people, a subset of people, which I fear that there's more and more of in the world, that are consumed by conspiratorial, antagonistic thinking, and refuse to really listen and really hear arguments, and are instead highly emotional and reactionary, even sometimes disguising that reaction and that emotion as rationality. But there's a willful element to their position, and I am a very tiny channel in a sea of content. and I have been very lucky not to encounter too many of those people. But it happens, and of course I see it alive and well in other channels and in other parts of the internet. And I saw that video today, and I thought that was funny because I had been planning this video, and I had just this morning thought about what intelligence is, what I really believe that being intellectual and intelligent is about. I've talked before about what it is not, and I mentioned that in a video I made about college philosophy, and about I had encountered people who were giving a theatrical performance of a lifetime, where they're trying to put their intellectual prowess on display, and were just really horrible. And I look back at that with a lot of humor, you know. But I also mentioned the aesthetics, different reading aesthetics on Book Talk and social media in general, where people perform profundity, I guess, in the form of dark academia, but more specifically, antagonistically putting the reading habits of other people to shame, right? Similar to Twilight in the 2000s, there's now a kind of snobbery where people are like, you're not gonna catch me reading Colleen Hoover. I read insert, Donna Tartt, insert Sylvia Plath, insert Dostoevsky. It's the same crap every time, and these are good books, but I talked about performing profundity, and I don't think that that's what real intelligence is. I think intelligence is not consuming, it's thinking. But I wanted to refine that point because there's something crucial, which is a consumption, and that is, I think, how I'm understanding intelligence now, and a real intellectual mindset is that you have to be really open to input, and any input that makes you uncomfortable and challenges you. So this could be a mathematical problem. You ever sit down and try and do math, and it makes me really uncomfortable. It's hard, it's difficult, I don't understand it. Right? To be intellectual, you don't have to understand it right away. You just have to be open and receive the input. Really listen, and then you use a variety of tools to process it. And then you have the chance to make a novel conclusion or any conclusion. But you essentially, like a logical puzzle, you map out why you feel something. Why did you arrive at the conclusion? Well, you can look back and say, well, I went through this process. And so, of course, math is a really clear way, logic and that. But also with the social sciences. To be truly intelligent, you can hear a statement that is challenging to you, that you don't quite understand, but you can not have it radically threaten your worldview, and you can really sit with it, and you can say, is this true? Where is this coming from? That type of thing. And so, intelligence is a bit of a openness, and that's an openness in processing. So, I conceptualize when you self-study and you decide to really challenge yourself, self-study, all it means is that you are intentionally getting some controlled exposure to difficult and challenging input. It's like a workout for your brain. That's how I'm conceptualizing this. I have found that longevity for self-study can be really tricky because, like, for example, I've tried to learn so many different things and I failed, and it discouraged me from learning. Like, I kept trying to take a Coursera class on philosophy, couldn't do it. Tried to take another one on creative writing, didn't finish, forgot about it. I tried to learn Polish, forgot about it, and just did not follow through on my desire to really learn something in a structured way. I no longer have that problem because I didn't force what I failed at. I just found something that I liked. A few things that I liked, and one of those is philosophy. But regardless, I think a key to longevity when it comes to teaching yourself something in a structured way, there's a few things. So let me just list them. Let me talk about them. The first one is it's good to have history or some type of linear curriculum. So, in the case of a language, that's great, or math, that's great, because there's levels, and you start at the beginning, and as you gain competency, you can level up to new things, and that's great. The humanities, subject matters, that's harder, right? Like, if you want to teach yourself world history, that's great because, well, you start wherever you want to start, year zero, and keep going from there. In my case, with philosophy, there's so many rabbit holes and avenues and topics that my strategy, which has worked, is to still start with history and start with, like, chronologically, the pre-Socratic, and then just go down the list. The book I'm using is The History of Philosophy by A.C. Grayling. This is A History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. That's it. I'm using 2 books. I will use smaller philosophy books if there's something that I really need to figure out, and then I'll Google things as I go through those books. So what's worked is a historical approach, finding a timeline and working with the timeline. That kind of, one idea usually leads to another idea in history and so on. And then I'm working with very limited resources, just 2 books. There are so many books about philosophy that I just chose 2. And I chose A.C. Grayling's book, and then one of the books that he was inspired by, which is Bertrand Russell's. And that's it. That leads me to my next point, which is that I find in order to make learning sustainable, it cannot be on a computer. It cannot be on a computer. I'm wondering how you relate to that, because for a while I was trying Coursera and I was like doing a lot more Googling, but I kept getting so distracted, it was like impossible. And so I just got 2 physical books, sometimes books on my Kindle, and then I consult Google usually at one time, not as I go. I'll make notes if I have questions, and then at a separate time I will consult the internet for all of those questions. I don't go back and forth between the computer and the books. I just stay in the books for the duration of a study period. I just won't go on the computer. And I found that one of the challenges to being able to do this for long periods of time, like weeks and weeks, and make it a part of life, a big barrier to that was TikTok and social media, which is like, of course, classic, you know what I mean? But I love TikTok, and I use it very similar to how I use the computer, and that is in intentional sessions. I download the app for those days, like, when you're just sick, when you're just absolutely burnt, you're absolutely exhausted, and I download it, and it's like the funnest time, and I'll watch it all night. I will watch it for hours and hours, and I love it, and then I delete it off my phone, and that was that. That was TikTok, and it was great. And right now I don't have it on my phone. I've been reading instead, but I'm even thinking about tonight. Like, I feel so exhausted and so burnt. It's Sunday. I've been reading like all day. Tonight might be like a TikTok kind of night, and I look forward to those moments. But that's just how I use social media. Is I download it. There's like, I allow myself hours on Google, I allow myself hours on TikTok, but not, maybe TikTok, I'll do it like once every 1.5 to 2 weeks, and then Google I'll do like once every couple days. So I find it way harder to be distracted if I'm just on a laptop and I'm just Googling my research interests, and I bookmark and I make folders. But my phone, I don't research on my phone. The phone is like such a siren that I have to, navigate around, that I don't even go on that adventure a lot of the time. So, okay. Those type of dopamine things are a big challenge to having studying something be like a hobby. I think also part of longevity is less, like I said before, like I tried to learn Polish. I love the idea of speaking languages. I only speak English right now, but realistically, it's every time I've tried to do it, I'm not doing it. And that clues me into the idea that maybe my desire to be bilingual is a fantasy. It's like a fantasy about the person I could be. This like ideal version of myself, but it is not in there. It's not happening. When I pay attention to where I'm happiest, and I really give in, and I do that, I can study all day. I can just go every day. And I am, and that's kind of the nice thing. So that for me is ideas. It's not language. It isn't even logic. And it certainly is not math. It is ideas. It is philosophy and history. I can be there all day, every day, and so that's where I'm going to be. It would be incredible to be like really good at math. I envy that so much. I think it's incredible. Anyone who can calculate tip at a restaurant, you are awesome, because I cannot. And bandwidth is limited in the brain, and I gotta go where the signals are actually coming in. And that's really worked for me. Definitely, I let go of this vision of who I could be, and just like I'm going where the passion is, not just the fantasy of passion, actual passion. Yeah, it's a good idea to have a feeling of real purpose too behind what you're studying and why. So, yeah, I typically apply my knowledge. One of the best ways I do that is I just am bewildered and I'll ask my girlfriend questions, or I'll just tell her, like, did you know this? This is wild. Like, when I learned about gut bacteria and how it controls emotion, I would not shut up about it. Everyone I met was like, did you know this? I didn't know this. Are you kidding me? I need to be feeding these things inside of my body, sweet potato or kale, or they're going to give me depression. Why didn't I know that? And I will literally talk people their ear off about what I'm reading. And the second thing is through ASMR videos. If I read a book, I like to talk about it. And I like to talk about ideas. And this other YouTube channel I'm starting will be about the ideas that I read, but in a much more concentrated way. And I think applying your knowledge is really good. Having a blog is great. That type of thing. So that kind of brings everything full circle. It gives you that sense of purpose, community. Ties into the real world. So that's a bit about how I study, how I conceptualize it, how it fits in my life, and then what I'm doing with it. And I'm really excited to be engaged in this way. I'm going to end this video by talking about something that is tricky. It's really tricky. But college. So I got a bachelor's in film, and then I got a master's in animation. You know, my official degrees are technical, and I learned about film equipment. I learned how to animate things, like technical skills, and that type of thing. I learned how to write. But before that, I fell in love with history at the second part of high school. And I fell in love with ideas. All kinds of ideas. When I first got to college, I wanted to major in philosophy and history. And I wanted to minor in women's studies. So I pursued these things. And why it's tricky is because two things were happening. One is that college really damaged my relationship to ideas, to these subject matters that I had loved and wanted to pursue. And so I stopped pursuing all of that. In that video about philosophy, for like the small amount I was studying it, I talk about part of why a lot of social politics and academia just were such a turnoff. I'm careful to talk about it because when I say women's studies, like my relationship to women's studies, to feminist ideas and queer ideas was all but destroyed in undergrad. It put me off. My education just put me off so much. And I hesitate to say that because while that's true for me, it's also, I don't think it's true for everyone. And going to a university and studying the humanities can be very rewarding. And part of me wonders, what would have happened if I stuck with it. But I will say, I'm so happy that I majored in something technical and that I just got technical skills out of it, because now, outside of college, I've been able to repair my relationship with philosophy, history, and feminist ideas through reading books. Through reading books that I want to read. Going wherever my brain wants to go. And being able to block out some of the noise at the time. Universities, maybe they still are, were going through crisis of like, there was stuff we couldn't learn about. And philosophy was from a Christian bent. And it was, it didn't take into account any current event issues. For example, I took a bioethics class that would not talk about, because it was kind of Christian, it would not acknowledge the potential ethical concerns of genetic engineering, cloning, anything having to do with whatever the heck Neuralink is doing right now. Like things that are important and good for people, bad for people, but they're on the table. And we couldn't talk about those things. And then as far as history is concerned, it was just so boring. It was just so boring. And I know history is not boring. I love history. I love it. I read it all the time. I watch history YouTube videos, all kinds of things. I have repaired my relationship to these subjects and the books about these subjects. And I'm very thankful for that, but the university definitely took its toll on me to the point where I just shifted over to animation and film, which I'm thankful for. But that's kind of my personal experience. So this self-study that I do has been very rewarding and has kind of brought me back from a cynicism and a negativity that I was developing as an undergrad. I'm glad I just stopped, because my experience isn't everybody's experience. And I was getting really bitter about education in the West and all that stuff, but I think it's not as bad as my experience was. And when I switched majors, it all went away. It was great. Even in studying film and animation, I took theoretical classes about image and the way the brain processes image and emotion and performance. That was really rewarding. And I loved all my classes. Anyway, yeah. That's all I wanted to ramble about in this. I hope you enjoyed this video about learning. I hope you're able to relax, and I hope that day or night you're able to have a good time and that things are going well. So, thank you so much for listening, for checking in and being here, and I hope to see you in the next video.